Home safety panel here. I'm Zach Fleming with Fleming Construction, 17-year remodeler and master electrician, and I'll be answering all your questions about safety and home safety if you have any.
Do you want me to pause it? Hold it. Should we start again?
And I'm Ray Reynolds.
It's
my
okay.
past profession, I was a State Fire Marshal from 2010
Can you take
to
it off of this?
2013. I've been in the fire service going on 30 years. I'm currently the fire chief in Nevada, Iowa.
Okay.
Cody Schwaller with Reference Audio, Video, and Security. Been here for doing the AV stuff for about 15 years. We do custom audio, video, security, surveillance, home automation, pretty much anything you want to do in your home.
I'm Bill Goebel with
That's just the
Radon
radon.
Service. We provide radon testing and mitigation services for commercial and residential buildings.
So hold it up to your mouth.
Close enough?
Yep.
Great, we'll take your question.
But anybody have a specific?
Oh, here's a question right here.
I have a question. What causes radon?
Oh, that sounds like a radon question. What causes radon?
So if you would repeat the question for our Facebook Live folks.
Sure. Question is, what causes radon? Radon is caused by radon decay is a byproduct of uranium and radium in our soil. So as that decays into radon gas, it's free to travel and can travel up into your home and get trapped inside your home. The problem with that is it causes lung cancer because it's a radioactive gas.
So on with that, how does it get into your home? Is it like seeping through the cement, or how does it get into your
The
home?
question was, how does it get into your home? We have cracks in our floors, we have sump pumps, drainage tiles, so the air pressures inside the home tend to draw air out of the basement, and it sucks the radon in through cracks and sump pumps and drain tiles. Other questions?
I'm full of questions. I guess this was the go toward the home security.
Okay.
So, can you tell me what kind of product you have? How is it wired? Things like that for home security.
What kind of products do we have? Well, when it comes to security systems, there's actually wired security systems or wireless, depending on the home and depending on the environment that we're putting it into. It may be an all-wired, it may be an all-wireless, or maybe a hybrid in between those two systems. Does that answer your question?
Can you talk a little bit about each of them? Benefits or upside or?
Benefits of wireless security systems. Basically, you don't have to run wires throughout the walls. We can put them pretty much anywhere. With a wired system, you don't have to worry about batteries, so you don't have to worry about a battery in a couple of years dying. The hybrid system kind of is the best of both worlds because we may have a wired water detection unit in the basement by your sump pump, while a door that we couldn't get into, we could put a wireless sensor on there to be able to actually make sure the door is secure as well. Yeah, and wireless obviously allows you to retrofit into pretty much any house that you want to do. Where a wired system, we don't have all the flexibility based on a finished basement or anything like that. When you're doing a new construction house, we try doing wired pretty much all the time. And when it comes to retrofit, most of those are wireless or some variation of it.
So you have to have internet and wireless.
The question was, do you have to have internet for wireless? No. All of the security systems that we do are cell-based, so it uses a different style of a cell card from your cell phone. That way the frequencies don't get mixed up. But yeah, you don't have to have internet in order to do the security system at all. And a lot of them are app accessible, so on your phone, you forget to arm your system, you can go into an app on your phone and be able to arm it from pretty much from anywhere in the world.
Do you have any statistics on the, I guess, what's it, the theft in one area, like why does you have a home security system?
I don't have exact numbers on it, but I do. The last time I was talking with one of the authorities, just in general, break-ins are up about 35% from last year. That was the last number that I had heard.
How about monitored fire systems? Can we talk about monitored in-home fire systems?
They don't do fire alarms. So the question was monitored fire alarms. So I'd like to start this with, when would you want to know there is a fire in your home? Most people would tell me it's when the fire starts. If you're away, a lot of times that fire will develop into a flashover condition, and the only time it gets reported is when somebody sees smoke coming out the window, fire coming out the window. That's way behind the curve on trying to salvage your property. Obviously if money were no option, we would love to have monitored. We have large facilities, care facilities that are monitored. And what I mean by monitoring is whether you're home or not, that fire gets detected to somebody, which initiates a response from the fire department. I can give you an example. There's products out now. There's one called Home Shield. We don't endorse products, but they actually have an app, and it'll monitor the inside of your room. And so if your room the temperature goes up to 160, we would all agree that's unusual, and your app would actually alert you, and it would send out a message to 12 of your friends that you select, and it says, hey, the bedroom in Ray's house is 160 degrees. That would cause an alarm, and it would also dispatch the fire department to the house. It also monitors the smoke conditions, the visibility. So where fire detection is going is really on the cusp of some really good things for the fire service. I've always said the quicker we can get fire department notification, the quicker we can get a fire under control, the more likely you're going to be able to still live in your home. One of the things that we talk just in general is about smoke detection. And the code requirements are minimum safety requirements to protect life. They're not designed to let people know that your house is on fire at an early stage so that you can take action. And if you stop by our booth, I'll tell you, some of the statistics are 25% of home fires are put out by people that live there. If you think about it, a small fire extinguisher. So the more detection you have, monitored or unmonitored, is more likely that you're going to reduce the damage involved in your home fire.
I do want to elaborate on that. I apologize, I misunderstood the question. When it comes to the security systems, we can do fire. I took it as a monitored, like a commercial style setup. That we don't do. Security systems, you can have smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, and all of that stuff tied into those, where they notify the authorities and they also notify you as well.
And I should add that the security and fire folks are working really close lately in light of some things that are happening in our news. So we're looking at schools and delayed egress and all this other stuff, and that's a whole nother topic. But there is a very good line of communication between electricians, fire, and all the folks. And Radon is kind of the new person to the curve for us because we hear about it, but we don't have an active role in it.
Can anybody speak to the code?
So
When it comes to, when a new build, say.
So the question is, can anybody speak to the code in Des Moines? I am not from Des Moines, but I do know that there is a code consortium, and all of the metros try and adopt the same code so that there isn't confusion and home builders going from one city across city lines saying, well, when I go over here, I got to do this, but you make me do this. So in a population that has a large amount of subdivisions, having a unified code, I think, is really key towards promoting economic development and everybody being on the same playing field. As far as specifically smoke detection, is that what you're after?
Yes, it has to be hardwired.
Hardwired, okay. Yeah, we've actually required hardwired smoke detection since 1971. My position is I would rather you have a detection or detectors, and not one, more than one. I have 8 in my home, and it's pretty small. Again, it goes back to when do you want to know there's a fire. The problem with the smoke detection code is that fire departments typically don't have jurisdiction over single-family homes and duplexes. Our fire code that we adopt actually kicks in at 3 families or more, townhomes and stuff like that, and for good reason. I mean, we don't want to necessarily tell people how they have to live and build and all that stuff, But when you start getting into townhomes and you have multiple people that are affected by their neighbors, that's why the fire code is intended for life safety. You're never going to go wrong with detection. And I would be remiss if I didn't talk about home sprinklers. You're never going to go wrong to have home sprinklers in your home. And Scottsdale's been doing it for 20 years. So you're going to see there's so many products coming out. The detection is changing now. The new CO laws kick in July. And they talk about having CO detection in a fuel-fired room and then outside the room. And then if you have those fuel-fired places in bedrooms, you have to have the CO alarms in bedrooms. But in most applications, you're going to see 1 to 2 CO alarms in any complex.
So the building code does cover smoke detection systems. Each city varies just a little bit, but generally speaking, you have to have a hardwired smoke detector in each bedroom, and then in each living space directly outside the bedroom. And then if you have ceilings that are above the, like higher than the normal ceiling height, that would also need to have protection in it as well. It's also required to have a CO detector in the hallway outside of each bedroom space. So in a remodel situation, we are required to bring those up to that standard, but they can be battery operated. So the rule of thumb, if you want to bring your house up to the code, would be to do a battery system that has those locations in it. Yes, go ahead. Yes, including the basement, yeah. So if you just have an unfinished basement, you would only be required to have one smoke detector in that basement. But as soon as you put a bedroom in there, you have to have one in the bedroom and then one in the main living space in the bedroom. Some cities also require having a smoke detector in the utility room as well, where the furnace is, but that is not universal. It eventually will be, I'm sure. A good rule of thumb is when in doubt, just put a smoke detector in the room. It doesn't hurt anything.
Can you talk about the bonding of the gas lines and the CSST?
Wow, that's one of my favorite subjects, yeah. CSST bonding, so the yellow gas lines in people's houses, the bonding question on that. Okay, so the fire marshal has some examples of this at their booth, and basically what they found was during lightning strikes, they can have a difference of potential between a bonded surface and the light. I'll let you go. I can talk about how to fix it.
Yeah, he's the fixer, and you're one of the few people that fix it. So CSST, I wrote the position paper for the International Association of Fire Chiefs on CSST. CSST is a flexible yellow gas piping. We have samples of it over there. The product itself started, back in late 80s. We have roughly 5 to 10 million homes that have yellow CSST in them. The issue was, about the late 90s, we started to find that lightning would strike homes. Here's the deal. Do you remember we used to have lightning rods on homes? We used to have brick chimneys. We used to have copper water lines. So we've taken all that stuff and modified it. We put in aluminum flues now that stick above the roof line. We put PEX piping in, and it's no fault, it's just technology evolves. What happens is lightning is attracted to that aluminum, it'll go through, and sometimes it's the installation. More times than not, it's the installation, the home doer, the person that's Googling on how to put in CSST. You can go to Lowe's and buy a whole roll of CSST. And so I always say, and I think we would all say, is let the experts do stuff like that, because gas piping in your home is a pretty critical system. So what happens is when lightning strikes it, it creates these pinhole leaks in CSST, and we have hidden fires throughout the home on different layers of the home. So as a firefighter, it's a very dangerous situation. We see a lot of CSST fires. So when the industry realized that, they said we ought to do something to bond this system so that we can get the current to the ground quicker. So they started a bonding program. Bonding's been required since about 2009. And bonding, we have an example of bonding up at our booth with the number 6 copper wire. So we saw a reduction in CSST fires from indirect hits, where it hits the tree next to your house and then your house catches on fire. With the bonding, we've seen a reduction, but we're still seeing some. So the industry themselves had said, okay, we're going to come up with a better flexible gas solution. Counter-Strike came out and Fly Shield came out, and it just kept getting better and better as it developed. So we are looking, we've been working with the 4 major manufacturers of CSST, and we're going to get them all into the lab at Underwriters Laboratory, and we're going to develop just what should the safety standard be. My position as a fire official is there is no product that should fail and cause your house to burn down. I believe that we're smart enough in America that we can figure this stuff out. And so getting these folks to the table, getting them to the testing lab, and I think every builder I've ever talked to, every electrician I've ever talked to, nobody wants to see a home fire. Nobody designs a product or a house to have a fire. And so when we talk, the issue with bonding is a lot of gas folks don't want to touch the electrical system to bond it or put it to the star ground. And a lot of electricians, not you, but a lot of electricians don't want to touch the gas system because they don't own it. And so you get a real struggle for the consumer. There is a website though, csstsafety.com. Or .org, CSST Safety. If you Google it, it'll bring up the website and it'll talk about CSST.
As a follow-up to that, if you go in to do a remodel on a home, is that something you would routinely check?
Yeah, actually, the city's just like the smoke detectors. When we pull a permit on a project and we have to bond the CSST in a house, it's such an important thing. I mean, only second probably the smoke detectors in the building code. They require that we bring that up. And it doesn't matter if you're building a deck or putting a shed on the outside of your house, they want to make sure that that's bonded, and they want to make sure that we have smoke detectors in every house. So don't blame me. We just want to make it safe. We're going to make sure you have those things in place.
And then new construction, now the new code says we can't even use the yellow flexible anymore. It's the black with the. You want to speak to that?
Yeah. We either use black pipe or we use the Counter-Strike in all new construction fire hydrants.
Yeah, so we went from the LC1 to a little higher standard, so that's what's now permitted in Iowa. They still sell the yellow though, that's the problem. And the home do-it-yourselfer sees that as a cheaper option. Here's the catch, it's 20 cents difference between the best safety standard of flexible pipe and the yellow. So if I were going to build a home and I had wife and kids and wanted to protect them, I guess I would spend the extra 20 cents per foot to do it, right?
I mean, everybody knows that their home's their biggest investment. They're always trying to save 20 cents a linear foot on. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah. And once we put it in, it's not coming back out. Yeah, it's there forever. So.
On security systems, are there any codes that we have to go, a homeowner has to go by to put in their own security system? Or
are there any codes that on a security system that the homeowner has to go by? Not really. There's not any codes that particularly pertain to it. As a company, we don't like to do an actual security system where our smokes are the primary smokes. We prefer having ours be like a secondary system. Not everybody's always going to have their security system monitored. So therefore, if you're not monitoring a security system, it's just going off inside your house or batteries eventually die type of thing. We always suggest ours being a secondary, and that would be about the only thing I could think of.
So there are a few codes that do dictate what you can do with low voltage wiring when it pertains to electrical. You can't run low voltage through a plenum, for example. So like the fire marshal said, generally speaking, if you don't know how to do it, you probably shouldn't be doing it. So you can't run stuff through cold air returns, heat runs, stuff like that. It's not, the locations aren't required, but the installation methods are always dictated by building code.
Do you have any systems in case a person is incapacitated, can't move?
Do we have any systems for people that are incapacitated and can't move? Is that what you're asking?
Like if you're falling down the stairs, you're kind of stroke.
Kind of like I've fallen and I can't get up style of system. Yeah, so there are devices, a couple of our security manufacturers have personal pendants on them to where it can automatically call the authorities. All of our security panels have the panic alert where you can automatically call the different authorities as well. It's not tied to the security side, but some of our home automation systems that we do, we can actually do systems where they're a pressure sensor. So if somebody's sitting in a chair and they fall out of their chair, if that sensor hasn't sensed so much weight in a certain time frame, it can notify authorities or it can notify family members or things like that. So yeah, there's different variations of that style of product that's out there. Any more questions?
Could all of you just wrap up and let us know where you're at in the show, so if anybody wants to come visit you, let them know where you're located, and any last comments?
Okay, so
Oh wait,
I got one. Well, being in the low voltage industry, retired fireman, doing security stuff, could you maybe also wrap up, do a generalization on where people could go to find out this information, as far as what you touched on, quantum cable, security, fire with the CSST, because I remember several of those fires, and also with the radon systems.
Yeah, well, generally the electrical code, you can find that in the International Electrical Code. It's about this thick. So, but if you have any questions, I'm over in a booth over just over on the side from the construction. 39 and 40, I guess. So I'll be over there to answer any additional electrical questions. But yeah, it's there's about, I think, 9 or 10 different code books that we have to go under. So it's kind of, I think the fire marshal's website probably has a lot of information on it, more than likely.
most of the cities, most of the municipalities around the metro have a link on their website as well about their local code.
So I think I am at 208, right? Yeah, 208. So I think the biggest thing that we find is when somebody's detector is chirping, they don't know what to do, especially if it's hardwired. And we pull those down, you pull them down, or if you're of the age where you shouldn't be up there pulling them down, our fire department will show up at your house and pull it down for you. And I can't imagine there aren't a lot of fire departments that would do that, because we don't want you to fall, and that's an emergency that you shouldn't have to endure. But if you look on the back of most products, it'll tell you the brand name. And the nice thing about Google is, especially for smoke detectors, there's a company here in Des Moines, I don't even remember their name, but I have Googled a number of smoke detectors, and it always comes back to this company in Des Moines. I've called them, and they said, yeah, we can get that detector, that's not a problem. And they can get you a brand new detector that's good for 10 years that you can put in your house that has the same electrical connection, the plastic connection. I mean, in my world, wouldn't it be great if they all had the same connection, because then you could shop around and get whatever. But do some research online, call your fire department. In many cases, if it's a volunteer department, they may not have that code savviness. Call some of the metro fire departments, look up the Fire Marshals Association. Those are folks that live to prevent fires. And so just reach out to folks and ask those questions. And like anything, shop around and don't buy into Facebook like products that are just going to send you a direction. Do your research before you do that. And lastly, please let experts get involved when you're doing something like that.
Is there a rule of thumb for how frequently should you replace your smoke?
Oh, great question. Yes, so right now there is one company that has a 30-year smoke detector. And that is a system that is Bluetooth connected. The only thing you got to do is change batteries. And so it's a pretty effective company. You're going to see a lot of stuff coming down the line on extended smoke detection. However, the general rule of thumb and the manufacturer's recommendations, NFPA's recommendations is your smoke detector should last 10 years from the date of manufacture. So if you look at it, pull it off in the back, you'll see a date in which that smoke detector was manufactured. What I like to do is put the expiration date, EXP, and the date that detector is going to go out. And so the other thing is, with a CO detector, unlike the smoke alarm that chirps that tell you your battery is low, a CO alarm, when it chirps, that means it's at its end of life. There's an end of life sensor in the CO detector, and it is usually about 5 to 7 years. And so when your CO detector chirps, don't just throw another battery in and think you're good, because you're not. And so CO detectors are 5 to 7. When they chirp, throw them away. Smoke detection is 10 years. And now that we have sealed battery, we're telling folks, check it every month. And then when it is at its expiration, throw it away and put a new one up.
Cody Schwaller with Reference Audio, Video, and Security. We're booth 35, just south of the garden display. To piggyback onto the whole smoke detectors thing, 10 years is a good expiration date for it with the advancements in technology. Speaking from the electronic side, I usually replace mine about every 5 to 7 just because there is new stuff out, new sensors, better sensors in it. So I always try to be on top of the technology with that. So.
Bill Goebel with MB Radon Service, booth 30, right over that way. Got information there if you need. Local things to look for locally on the website. Iowa Department of Public Health operates their own website, which they oversee radon people in the state of Iowa. I've got information there too if you need, websites, etc. So stop on by.
You have home test kits, right?
Yes, we have home test kits for people to test their own homes. Simple little kit for $10. Hang it in your house and mail it to a lab. They'll analyze that and send you back the result. So pretty simple and easy to do.
Any other questions?
I actually have one question. When it comes to radon mitigation, what is an average cost for a system like that?
It really depends on the house, of course. Typically, you might be in the $1,000 to $1,500 neighborhood, depending on the house, of course. So just really need to look at it and see what's there and what might need to be done to estimate a cost on it. So.
I have a question for that. So what is it? You do a mitigation. I mean, how does that, what do you do?
What's a typical?
Question was,
What's typical?
what do you do for a radon mitigation system? The radon is typically generated in the soil. So we've got soil gas leaking into the house, and we typically put a system in, I guess think of it as a small vacuum system that pulls air from under the floor of the house, and it exhausts that outside. So it's pulling out the radon, soil gases, moisture, etc., and with a powered fan system, it's pulling that outside of the house.
You're talking about, now when you say under the floor, you're talking about like under the cement?
Yes. So we're pulling air from underneath the concrete floor of the basement typically, and venting that gas and radon and moisture outside.
Usually through the sump basket.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have a sump basket, that's kind of a big source. You've got underfloor tiling that carries into that sump pump, and that's a common spot to locate a system. I don't like to put it in the sump basket directly because you'll have to work on your sump pump at some point, and then you have to take your radon system apart. So we prefer to put them directly into the floor, so it's a permanent part of your house, not a temporary thing that might get disassembled when you work on your sump pump or lids or things like that.
Great.
Any more questions?